This is Sean Sweeney. I'm a speech and language pathologist and instructional technology consultant. And I wanted to talk today about the new iOS 7 and the features that SLPs and educators need to know about just to be comfortable with it. I know some of you may be looking at it and thinking, oh gosh, I don't like change. But I do think that iOS 7 has a lot to offer if it takes a little bit of getting used to. You'll first notice that iOS 7 looks a bit different. So iOS 7 basically changed the brain of the iPad and all of the native apps that come with the iPad. So the apps produced by Apple. So you'll see that reminders and camera and settings have new icons. One of the things that's different about iOS 7 is just the look and feel, that the icons look a bit what is called flatter. They don't have a lot of depth to them. They're meant to just look more clean and simple. The color palette is a bit different in iOS 7, a little bit brighter, and we'll see some other features that just sort of look different, simpler, minimalist, clean. And a good example of this is the Notes app. So if we look at the Notes app here, and I think I have it open someplace past Facebook, we will see. Yes, there we go. Okay, Notes used to look like a legal pad with yellow lined paper, and it now just looks clean. And part of this is a movement towards clean, minimalist design and away from things that reference objects in the real world. So it doesn't look like a notepad anymore because as we move forward in technology, we don't really need that as much. That's the philosophy behind that. I know you might not totally agree with the way it looks, but this is the way it looks now. Then you'll notice a clean font. They use Helvetica New through the whole operating system. So Notes is kind of a good example of that. One of the things that SLPs and teachers will love, because we like to be organized, is that our folders, first of all, have this little translucent effect, which is kind of nice. It shows the background behind them. That doesn't happen if you use a photo from your camera roll. A lot of the time the background will just look gray. But if you use some of Apple's actual backgrounds, they'll have this little translucent effect kind of showing the background behind them. But you can see here I have a lot of folders, and I had to create multiple ones like books and books too, because previously the folders had a limit of 20 icons in them, and now they're multi-page and look like this, so you can put an unlimited amount of apps in a particular folder. So that is nice to know about, and it will help us organize instead of having to make multiple folders. Now, some of the gestures in iOS 7 are a bit different. If you sweep from the very top of the screen, as always, that brings up Notification Center. So any notifications, calendar, alerts, things like that, or push notifications that you have, that will come here. I had previously talked a lot about Spotlight, which I think is a great tool. We have to find apps kind of instantly, and Spotlight allows you to search for apps. This used to be available from the first page if you swept to the right. Now there's nothing there when you do that. Okay, Spotlight is now available though from every page. So every page of apps you can bring down Spotlight by dragging from about the center of the screen. If you look at like your second row of apps and tap and drag down, that brings up Spotlight. And that is a really nifty feature, and it's great to be able to get to it from more places. So if I wanted to launch Notes from Spotlight, I just tap Notes and Notes opens. You'll also notice that this animation is a little bit different when you're moving from an app to the home screen or vice versa. So iOS 7 has a little bit more bold animation there that are sort of fun. Now, we talked about what happens when you sweep from the top and when you sweep down from the center of the screen, and when you sweep from the lower part of the screen, the very bottom, you get what is called Control Center. So Control Center is new, and this is an effort to bring all of the things that you want to have at your fingertips, functions or things you want to change, to you quickly so that you don't have to go into settings to do them. So you can see here you can play a song that's currently playing. You can change the volume of the iPad from here. You can go into airplane mode. You can turn Wi-Fi on and off. I do notice if I'm joining a new Wi-Fi network, I do have to go into settings still to join that Wi-Fi network. This button doesn't do that for me. Bluetooth, do not disturb. Here's where you lock the rotation of the iPad from portrait to landscape. So previously we swept, brought up the multitasking bar, which I'll talk about next, and swept all the way to the right, and that doesn't do that anymore. This also brings up a timer and the camera and brightness. This also allows, this is where your AirPlay mirroring is if you want to mirror to an Apple TV, which is being done in some classrooms now. So that's called Control Center. Now, Control Center can be activated from any app as well. So I'm on the home screen and I activated this, but you, as a teacher, you may want to turn that feature off, because if students are working within an app and they sweep up from the bottom, they're going to bring this up and get confused. So that can be toggled on or off from settings. So here we are in settings, which also looks different, a little clean and new. And if you go into the area called Control Center, you can see the little on-off buttons here are different. When it's green, it's on. That does make sense. And when it's white, it's off. And if you turn on the access within apps, that means Control Center can be brought up with a sweep from the bottom of the screen in any app. But I recommend having that disabled, because I think working with students, that would be kind of a problem. Now, going back here too, one of the areas we're used to is the multitasking bar. This can still be brought up with 4-finger sweep up, okay, like I did there, or double tapping the home button. The multitasking bar shows any apps that you are using and lets you switch between them. One of the things that's different about it now is that it has these little cards that give you a preview of what's going on in that app. So it lets you see the app screen and kind of preview it. But the multitasking bar is also used to force quit apps. So if an app is misbehaving, you need to force quit it, or some people just like to quit their apps so that it doesn't drain the battery, though Apple says that isn't the case. But if you like to quit your apps, the way you do this now is that you sweep up. So you're going to touch the card and sweep up like that. It's kind of fun. And that quits the app. Okay. And actually, if you use 2 fingers, I tried using 3, but I think I gave myself an injury. 2 fingers at once and sweep up, you can quit 2 apps at the same time. Kind of blows your mind, huh? It's pretty cool. So that's different about the multitasking bar. I think it will be helpful for students who are switching apps, because it gives them more of a visual of what they were working on, because they have the preview there now. Safari has had quite a makeover as well, so I'm going to open up Safari, which is our web browser. Safari also has a clean look here. This is what we normally had seen as the share button. It looks a little bit different as well. It used to look like a box with an arrow curving out to the right. The share button allows you to do things like bookmark, add to reading list, add to home screen, copy, print, or share a web page to mail. That's how you can bookmark a page. That's one thing that's different about Safari. Safari also used to have a URL bar, and then over here it would have a Google search bar. And now this bar here you could use for either function. Okay, so if we wanted to look up Google Asha as opposed to going to Asha, when you tap go, that will actually Google Asha. Okay, but if you go up here and you type in asha.org, okay, the function is the same. It will actually navigate to the web page. One of the things that I also like about Safari now is in this bookmarks area, this can be used to display your bookmarks in your bookmarks folder, the reading list. If you ever want to save something to your reading list, that's done up here with the share button. You can add to the reading list. You can see the glasses there. But a new feature that I really like, because I am a Twitter person, and even if you're just kind of getting started with Twitter, one of the best things about it is that people share links. So rather than having to view my entire Twitter feed and just sort of things that people have said back and forth, this shared links area shows only the links that people have shared. So that's going to be nice for getting information about education and technology and speech and language pathology for me, because it can show you just the links. So one of the other pieces is that if you use Siri at all, if you have an iPad 3 or above, you can access Siri. Hang on one second. There's Siri, came up. Okay, and you can actually change the voice of Siri now. So if you go into the settings, you can change Siri from male to female, and there's an improved voice. So check that out as well. One of the things that I always recommend doing is knowing what you have for updates. So when developers update apps, they often add new features, and that's really helpful to know about. And on this screen in the App Store, it tells you what the new features are. So updates can be made automatic in iOS7, or you can make it just the way it was before, so that you have to be able to read and be aware of your updates. This is under Settings in the iTunes and App Store. And there's a new area here under Automatic Downloads, Updates, the fourth one down. You can make it make those automatic when they pop up. But you also can make it so my iPad here has cellular data. You can make it so that they'll only download when you're on Wi-Fi, which would save you your data. I'm gonna for now turn that feature off because I really do like to be aware of what my updates are. And in this operating system, when an app is updated, take a look down here on the bottom row. Calendars 5 recently had an update. The only way you'll know if the app had an update that ran automatically is that little blue dot next to it, which is a helpful indicator, but I think it's just not enough information. I like to know what the update is. One of the things that is part of iOS 7 too, and I can't really demonstrate it here while I'm mirroring, but when you move your iPad around on the home screen, there's something called parallax that makes the view look a little bit 3D. It makes it look like there's some depth behind your icons. I think that's okay, not really particularly useful, and I think that some of our students might tend to stim off of it. So when you play around with that, that actually can be turned off also in accessibility, under General, Accessibility, and there's an area here that says Reduce Motion. Okay, so if you reduce motion, if you turn that on, that will turn off the parallax effect. So experiment with that if you feel that's important. That is something to note. Now with accessibility also, while I'm in General Accessibility, notice that there's a new area here in Physical and Motor called Switch Control. Now people have clamored for years for more accessibility in iOS for people with physical disabilities, and that has now been added. I'm not an expert on this by any means, so I will refer you to Luis Perez, and I put some of his links in the post that went with this video, because he has recently explored that and he really knows a lot about the accessibility features of the iPad, which could you could go on for quite some time about all of those and how robust they are, and they've really kind of rounded it off by adding a physical disability area. This is available for iPad 2, 3, and 4, and the iPad mini. So hope that was helpful for you, and thanks a lot.